Hi. All these days, over the period of multiple videos, we have looked at how we can develop applications in Business Application Studio. But we need to store these applications, or the source code of these applications should be version controlled. By popular, most of us use GitHub for storing our source code. So in Business Application Studio, how do we go ahead and then store our application? Right now we have an application sample-cap, which is a cap based application. The source code is what we can see in with us. Before we store it in GitHub, as a prerequisite, we need GitHub account where we can store them. Okay. So we go across to our GitHub. So there is one GitHub .s where we want to store our application. We'll go into repositories. We'll create a new repository. There are multiple types of repositories that you can create, public or private. Private is only within your account and only you can access it, and you can give access to only few set of people to whom you can give that. As we are all in the open source mindset, we usually have our repositories are public. We want to share our work, we want others to come collaborate with our work, so we have public repositories in place. So the name of the repository should be unique within its owner. So right now the owner is Learn2S. If you're working for an organization, you can have multiple organizations inside which you can create a repository. By practice, the name of the application is going to be the name of the repository. Okay, so I'm going to have one repository, a sample-cap, which is the name of our applications, which is that. So we have sample-cap, give a description of it. If you want, you can initialize the repository with a readme file for each of the repository. Right now, we don't want to initialize any file or any branches in GitHub. We will talk about branches in a minute. So we will create the repository which is there. So we have a plain repository. There's nothing in this repository. We take the HTTPS method. Go ahead. So in GitHub, in our menu pane, so we have a source code control where we can initialize the repository. By default, this is Git repository, so we initialize the Git repository. When you initialize the Git repository, it takes all the files that a particular application has. Okay. Now these files are tracked with every small changes, and it also holds the source code, folder structure, project structures in place. Each of the file can be discarded. Okay, where you make some change, the change is recorded and you discard that change, or you can commit a particular change using a stage button. Okay, so I have a mti.yaml. I will stage this change. So I get two different things. There are few files where I have changes, and there are few files where I have staged the change, where I am ready to commit this change which is in the application. Okay, if I want to remove the stage, I can go ahead and then unstage a particular file. Okay, this happens on a file level. This does not happen on the line by line source code that you have inside a file. So this is on a file level. If I want to stage all the files in an application, so I can go ahead and then stage all of them. I have staged multiple files, and these multiple files I will give a commit message called as initial commit. So commit is where I make a change and I'm committing to that change, and I'm ready for this change to be sent to the repository. So I commit the change, and as this is the very first time that we are working on this repository, it will ask us to publish the branch. each repository that we have branches. We can have multiple branches. Each branch will have multiple commits inside that. Each commit will have multiple files inside it, and each files will have changes on multiple line levels. So we can track the changes on the line levels, but you have to commit on the file level, which is that. So I publish a branch. So while publishing the branch, it gives us an error saying there are no remotes configured for this repository. So which means I initialize the Git repository that is very specific to Business Application Studio. Now I have to connect my repository that I have created in the GitHub using the link to my Business Application Studio. I go across to remote. I can add a remote. I give the URL that I have copied from my GitHub, and I give the name for this. By practice, we give it as origin. You can give any name that you want, but it has to be unique with respect to that. So I have given a remote to my repository that is available in Business Application Studio. Now I will publish the branch. This is an upload that happens. Okay. When I publish the branch, it will ask me what is the username. So this is the username of my account, learn2s. Okay. And it will ask me for a password or the token for this. So this is not the login password that we have. So when we go into our account and I go into the settings, I have something called as developer settings in place. Each of the developer settings will have tokens, the classic tokens that we're using. Each time you can go ahead and then generate a new token. When you generate a token, you can give a descriptive identifier that you can know that this token is used for that, set a expiry, and you can select what functions it needs to do within the account. Once you generate it, you will get a token. Now this token will show the token the very first time. You will not be able to get that back. If you miss copying that token, you'll have to delete it and create new. But if you have copied it and you can have that reference, you can use that until it expires. So I have already copied my token. So I will go across and then get my token in place. So let me add my token. So I add the token and then I give the token in that. Now it has gone across and published the branch. The name of the branch, which we can see on the bottom left corner, is master. Okay, so we'll go back to our repositories. So we have the sample cap repository that got updated just now with the message that we have as initial commit. So now my application, the source code of the application, is committed into GitHub into a branch called as master. Okay, so I have this and I also have the same branch available here. If I want to verify if I am on the same version of the repository, I can go check on my terminal. I can use a command called as git show. So it gives me a particular commit ID. This is for learn2s, and then it gives us for the master branch. This is also the same with origin/master. Origin is the remote that we have added. So when I come into the repositories here, I can go into the repository branch and then I can go into commits and then I can get the commit ID. Okay, so the commit details which is in place. Okay, this is the commit ID which you can see. The same commit ID is available by using the command git show. So I know I am on the same version of a particular commit, which is that. I will create a new branch. I don't want to work on master branch. Okay, so I will go to branches. I'll create a new branch with respect to master. I will create a branch called as feature. So I have a feature branch in place. So I go back to my business application studio. I have to update what has happened in the feature branch, or whatever changes that has happened in the GitHub. I have to replicate that here in my business application studio. So I go across and run a fetch. When I run a fetch, it fetches all the latest information that has happened in the remote that we have set. So I know there is a branch, so I can click on this and then I can create a new branch from a particular branch. I don't want to do that. I want to work directly on my origin. So now there are two branches. I don't want to work on master. I will go and change to a branch called as feature. So now I know I am in feature. So I can go ahead and then check this. So let me cancel this git show, which is there. Okay, I've stopped the git show. Now again I'll run another git show in place. Okay, so now I know I am in feature branch, and then it is on the same commit ID because we created feature branch on top of the master, so it's on the same commit ID. So I'll directly go into my account, the GitHub account. So I have a readme file. I'll edit this readme file. This is in master. Let me change this from master to feature. I don't want to change anything in my master. I want to change in my feature. So let me edit it. So let's say adding feature. Let me go across and commit this change. I directly committed to the feature branch. So now my feature has a change in place. Okay, so but that is not reflected here. So I again come into the repository source control that I have. I click on pull. So in a repository, if I pull, I can pull from a particular source. So I want to be very specific. I pull from a specific source. So I just don't do a pull. I do a pull from. Okay, it will ask me where do I want to pull it from. I have set a remote as origin, so I do an origin. I don't want to pull the master branch. I only want to pull the feature branch. So I pull the feature branch that I have in place. It runs a pull and then we have the latest version in place. Okay, so let's see what we have. So I can run git show, and then now I have a new commit ID 0e4c. What was that? We updated readme.md. That was the message that we went. Let us verify this. Yeah, I have two commits. So I have update readme.md, that is 0e43. That is already reflecting here. So now I know I have the latest version in place. So the readme.md has the line that I have here. I want to change this. Now I made a change in my GitHub and then I pulled it into my business application studio. But I want to make a change in my business application studio and then send it to my GitHub. How do I do it? So this line, so I will add a new line here. So I add a new line from business application studio and then I save it. As soon as I save this, in my source control, I have one change that is pending. So I go and then I know this is the file that I have changed. So I will stage this change. So I have a change that is staged for me right now and I'm ready to commit for it. So I will give a message to identify this commit that I'm doing. From BAS, first commit after branch. So I finished the commit. So right now if I go into my feature branch, I don't see this in my GitHub. So I have to push this change from business application studio to the GitHub origin that we have. I again can directly do a push because I am already in the branch origin/feature. Okay, but if I am in a particular branch but I want to push it to a particular branch, I am working somewhere else. Like for example, I have made change in branch 1 and then I have committed that change, and then I have shifted myself to work in branch 2, and then I get a commitment saying that I have to push my changes in branch 1 to a particular origin or a remote. So I come across to push and then I say push to. I want to be very specific what I want to push. So I want to push it to a remote origin, and then by default all the things that were pending in feature branch or all the remote that was pending in, all of them went across and pushed to that branch. So I can come back to my GitHub and then check, do I have? Yes. So I have from BAS the first commit after the branch. So I can go and check the code. So if you go into my business application studio, so I have new line from BAS that is added here. Okay, so this is available for me. So I've added 2 lines and I've also got 1 line back from business applications. So this is how you commit a change, you push a change, and you pull a change. Now we have multiple branches with us. So with multiple branches, how do we move the changes between 2 branches? We move that using pull request. So in this particular function, so I will create a pull request. I will create a pull request. I want to create from feature to master. There are 2 new commits that we have done. One is readme, the other one is the BAS commit that we added, the 2 new lines that are there in place, and that we want to push from feature to master. So we're pulling the changes from feature to master using a pull request. If you are in an organization and you want to add multiple reviewers, you can create a pull request and then you can add reviewers. You can assign these reviewers to multiple people. You can also label this pull request saying this is urgent, this is for this task, and things like that. Okay, so I will say feature first pull request, and I can give a small write up to it, and I create a pull request. When I create a pull request, this pull request should be merged into the master branch. Now, before merging to the master branch, there are some checks that will happen. Does this branch need any kind of approvals? Are there any policies in place? We will talk about them in our future videos in place. But right now our branch is open. We can create a pull request and then approve that pull request in place. It looks specifically for any conflict. Chronologically, each of the commits are tagged, saying I made a change 2 minutes ago, my colleague made a change 1 minute ago. In between both of us is another person. If he makes a commit and then we have not taken the sync of that particular commit, then we might get a conflict. So we look at these examples in the future, but right now we don't have any commits, so we can merge the pull request, or we can squash and merge. The 2 commits from this branch will be combined into 1 commit and then it will be pushed into this. So I don't want to do that. I want to keep my commits as is. I want to do that as is. Okay, let me create a merge the pull request. I confirm the merge and it merges. Pull request is successfully merged and then closed. I get an option to delete the feature branch. We don't want to clutter our workspace. As soon as we finish working on a feature, everything is done, we can delete that branch because all of our changes has come into the master branch. If you want to retain the feature branch, you can retain the feature branch without deleting it. So now all of these changes are in master branch. In Business Application Studio, we are in feature. If you want to change, we can go into master, and then as soon as we are in master, we can go to pull. So pull from origin, origin master. So we've finished the pull. So now in readme.md we can get the 2 lines that are there. So this is how you change a branch, pull, push, and create a pull request between 2 branches. Thank you. See you again.